Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Show. Today's episode is called Colonizing the Universe Philosophical Consideration for Cosmic Expansion. And my name is Artem. Today I'm joined by my co host Sergey, and we will discuss a variety of topics such as philosophical foundations for space colonization and expansion, as well as existential motivations of the humankind in that regard. And I'm sure we'll discuss plenty of mind-provoking thoughts today.
Thank you for such a warm beginning of our today's podcast, Artem. I'm super glad to record this episode again with you, and I totally agree on the point that we have very interesting topic today, another captivating subject, and I really expect our today's discussion being very full of interesting ideas, very inspiring for someone. I really hope that it's going to be inspiring. And let's make it interesting today, yes?
I'm sure we will, because the topic itself is just captivating. Because what can be more interesting than delving into the human mind and human motivations for such all inspiring things like space exploration and space colonization, because that's the essence of human nature, in my opinion.
Yeah, very interesting. I think for many of our listeners, it would be interesting to create this connection between internal human aspirations, internal human psychological features, desires, maybe sometimes fears, create connection between this part of human nature and human movement towards the stars. I really find this subject in some sense new for not maybe for our listeners, because in the previous few episodes we already touched this subject many times, but for society in general and for modern media landscape it's quite rare. I think it's not very right. It's widespread ideas to be discussed nowadays, but still I think they worth paying attention to. And talking about human minds, human hearts, human feelings, why do you think humanity in general and human being as a separate soul, I don't want to say separate unit, like I would say separate soul.
So technical.
Yeah, it would be, I think, a little bit cruel towards humans in general. Why do you think people are looking for some ideas and maybe solutions which will fulfill them? Why people are looking for fulfillment and inspiration, and how, in your opinion, philosophy and psychology responds to it?
Oh, I think it's a very interesting question. Thank you for that, because right now we have to consider that at this day and age, people are very developed right now. So we have to acquire all the necessary things for us to understand stuff. For example, whenever we need to choose a goal in life or do something, we really need to turn to philosophy, even right now, and to psychology. I think you have noticed it recently that the trend for example, psychology is very strong. Like maybe in the last 5-10 years, a lot more people started learning psychology, started understanding those things. And I think it's just a matter of time until people really delve into philosophy a bit more. But why do we need it in general? Since we are no longer cavemen, like from 20,
Sure.
30,000 years ago, we need to have justifications. We need to have some ideal background for what we're doing, like, except for mere surviving. We have to have a higher purpose. And different philosophical theories, different philosophical schools can help us with that. For example, I think we'll touch today a lot on one of my favorite philosophical schools, like existentialism and nihilism. And I think those really can help us understand human mind, um, I will also use human soul in this context. If you, of
Sure.
course, if someone believes in soul.
Sure. Like, I think we can create a survey under our today's episode if our listeners believe in presence of human soul. I don't know, in our body or anywhere else. Like, we should definitely. You should, if you are listening to us, you should definitely vote whether there is a soul in humans or there is not. Like, we will be looking for your opinions. And talking about all those fascinating concepts, I think we should also touch more. Maybe for someone it might sound boring, but in my opinion, it's definitely not. I think we should touch a subject of society and how society, in as let's say contemplation of millions and millions of individuals sees itself in future. Does society have this vision in general? We should answer this question, in my opinion.
Like a collective, like sort of a collective thought in that case?
Not necessarily collective thought. Maybe it's another, interesting topic for a discussion. Is there a collective thought or not? I think we can record another episode totally dedicated to this subject. But today, I think we just need to examine different visions of development of human society in general, in dimension of exploration beyond Earth frontiers. And there are a lot of interesting ideas, proposals, concepts, and I really find them fascinating. And I think you mentioned the word purpose, and this aspect of human existence, in my opinion, is very important. And also, you already touched the topic of the trend of growing interest towards psychology. There is a continuously growing demand for answers on different questions related to human internal feelings, internal world. So people are looking for those answers. They are asking psychologists, science, whether it can provide them with those answers. I would like to look at this trend from a different perspective. I think we should. Why I said this episode must be inspiring, because we should offer people different option which can offer them different pathway in their internal development. Maybe some people are looking for answers to their, existential questions, but even if they are provided with some of them, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily the answers they really need. Maybe they need to ask different questions and respectively get different answers. What I mean by that? I mean, people nowadays are very concentrated on themselves, on their personal goals, personal experience, personal traumas, actually. And it causes respective development. They are, digging in themselves and looking for answers suitable only for themselves. What I want to offer to some people, no, of course, it's matter
not for everyone, yeah,
not for everyone, definitely. Like, it matter of priorities and preferences of everyone. I want to offer an alternative. Maybe some people want to feel different. They don't want to proceed of their exploration of their personality, of their individual features, problems, and they don't really need those answers. Maybe they want to get involved into something bigger. They want to become part of great movement, great purpose, which would unite thousands, millions of people on the way towards certain goal. And what I mean by that, maybe I'm not very clear right now. I mean some ideas which create purpose for society in general. And right now, obviously, we don't have them. We don't have any uniting ideas which would, create a purpose or objective or goal or target for society. So people, they just live and they don't feel like on the road from point A to point B. They just live, lost or in a field, and they can go in any direction. Of course, it's in some sense it's good. It's like freedom and it's advantage of liberal society. But at the same time, it creates serious challenges because when for some people it's advantage, for other people at the same time it is a disadvantage. So my idea is to offer some ideas which would inspire people and provide them with sense of purpose and goal, that our society does not exist just for existence itself, but we can create some ideas and destinations where we can move step by step during very long period of time. And if those ideas sound appealing to someone, they can, become in some form part of them. So
So basically, that's a movement from egocentric ideas and thoughts to more, let's say, not collective, but more joined and invested in other ideas with other people.
Definitely. No, I'm not necessarily. We should not necessarily move to that alternative which society was offered during Cold War. If you are a collectivist, you should be definitely with one bloc. If you are individualist, you should definitely be together with another. It's always the framework which offers not perfect choice. Two not perfect choices, I would say it this way. I mean, we should offer human beings some ideas which they can join and where they can do their part. Right now, I'm not sure that it's possible, but at least they can keep in mind that there are some options which will provide humanity with perspectives of existence, not for next decade, not for next, few, quarters of century, but for much longer periods of time. This is my idea, and I very seriously believe that it may be appealing to many people.
I'm not sure about many people because, as we already mentioned, the transfer psychological exploration of oneself is really growing right now. And still, I think I noticed that a lot of people are focusing their philosophy, their personal philosophies, only on egocentric ideas. So it's not about the humankind, it's not about millennia, not about decades even. It's only about one person in particular, and that person is themselves. So I think it can be a very interesting conversation if we provide some choice and some options and delve more into them and discuss all the pros and cons of each one of them.
Definitely,
and how it may
definitely.
affect, of course, the course of, let's say, the higher purpose of humanity in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. I I do agree on that point that modern trends are demonstrating egocentric orientation of way of thinking of many people, of majority of people. But what I think in this regard is that our society is always developing within certain cycles. And when one cycle it gets it's reaches its peak, it always starts to decline. And previously we experienced it many times. If we take a look on very different social trends, we can notice that there are those fluctuations in trends, like whether it is sexuality, because it changed many times and very seriously throughout previous like 1 century, or we can even touch 19th century. Sexuality, perception of freedom, of
Yeah.
what type of clothes is popular, what type of songs is popular. It's ever-changing trend, and I do believe that in terms of psychological exploration, people will definitely, many people, not like statistically, we're talking about statistical values. Big group of people at some point will find out that constant concentration on themselves, constant exploration of their internal world does not necessarily lead to fulfillment and finding real purpose. Because, of course, modern world provides us with the answer. If you want to be happy, you should fulfill your not even like higher purpose. You should fulfill your needs. You should get material foundation you need, yes, and you need to
to feel comfortable, like in practical reality,
exactly.
Like to sleep well, to eat well, to dress well,
exactly,
to cover all this basic stuff.
Exactly. And on top of that, you need to get a specific lifestyle, shaped by social media, whatever type of lifestyle you are a fan of, you should follow this pathway. And on some point, people think this way. On some point, I will be happy. But like we will say directly, it's not the case, actually. And majority of people, they right now they are on the way to achievement their goals in material world and in terms of lifestyle they want to have. But everyone who achieves it eventually says that it's not enough. And what I want to say on this regard as well is that most of people, they don't even achieve it. They spend their life on the way towards this destination. It's another topic. But the thing is that when people get there, they receive what they want. They have always two options: increase the amount of impressions, goods they have, different, like he has the house with a pool, but you can build a villa with a pool on mountains. Like, of course, it depends on financial options available, but still, this is just one option. Human being can move in that direction, continue consumption, and continue with his or her attempts to find fulfillment in getting the things he or she want. But another option is to find higher purpose. And this is what we are going to discuss today. So, and another topic I think you will pay more attention to it than me, about people being stuck in attempts to achieve those economical benefits and the lifestyle they want. Like, I think Nietzsche was talking a lot about this things.
Yeah, I think so. I think he did. But at the same time, right now, people are really stuck in this never-ending pursuit of happiness instead of living happy and working towards something. So yeah, I think it's a huge problem right now. But at the same time, I completely agree with you. We should really discuss the options about the higher purposes. And I think if we can discuss it in detail, it can even be, let's say, relevant not only for space exploration, not only for the previous episodes that we discussed, but also for modern life as well. Like for people who are a bit lost right now and who are looking for something greater, who are looking for a real happiness instead of pursuit of happiness, perceived happiness, of course. And I think Nietzsche and philosophers of 20th century, such as Camus, Sartre, they really touched on that in, I'd say, in huge amounts of works. And I think it's going to be very interesting to discuss in conjunction with today's topic, which is affected by our previous episodes, of course, and which touches on the cosmic expansion and on higher goals of humanity as a humankind, as a species. So I think that would be extremely interesting. So I want to ask you one thing in particular. Which of all those modern trends, in your opinion, have some old foundation in philosophical concepts and in ideas that were already presented to us in all the philosophy books, for example?
Surely, I have a good answer for this one. Since we on this channel in this season of our podcast episodes are talking about space expansionism, space colonization, we will talk about the answers to those existential questions, to those fundamentals of human exploration, of human seeking towards the answers, why we are there, what should we do. The answers we will provide will be related to this general framework we are working in right now. And I think the very interesting alternative towards more classical options like religious teachings, like political ideas which based on atheism and science, which offer human beings different solutions, like I would say spiritual one for religions, where people having a chance to go towards another reality, whether it's the paradise or hell after death, or nothingness, like offered by those who support atheism. The alternative to those two options, again, like people were offered to choose from two not very perfect options. The alternative idea was offered, in my opinion, back in 19th century by one philosopher from Russia, and like yes, he was the first one who offered space explorations as the answer for human long-term goals and objectives. His name is Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, and he started his philosophical activity in the end of 19th century, and the most active he was in the beginning of 20th century and in 1920s, 1930s. And we should definitely discuss in more details his works and thoughts. But to summarize, to just give our listeners general understanding what we are talking about right now, he offered humanity. He was not talking about people individually. He was talking about humanity, because people
as a species,
they also have certain history, and they also move along certain pathways. And we as individuals, we really depend on the state of things in the society around us and the environment around us. And again, why do people feel sometimes desperate? Sometimes they feel depressed. They lack sense of purpose sometimes. It is not because of their personal situations. In many cases, it's not because their personal situations. It's because society does not provide them with simple answers. Why do we live? What we do? Why we do? And where do we go? In which direction? And Tsiolkovsky tried to answer those questions, to provide people with those simple answers, and to give them this simple foundation for their separate individual lives. And his answer was, we are going to stars. Of course, not necessarily tomorrow or day after tomorrow or next week, but in future we should definitely go there. And we as people living nowadays in our contemporary period of time, we already have a purpose. We already have a direction, because we need to create profound foundation for next generation, which will make those dreams, those ideas, those vision real. And our task is to create the society, create environment perfectly, if not perfectly, like maximally suitable for those further developments for next generations. And when people understand this, that we have some more distant, more long-term goal, they already feel more fulfilled. Like, it does not answer, individual questions like, what
do I do with my life?
What do I do with my life, in short terms? Or I was thinking about, like, what is the point in everything if anyways I will die in future? But at least Tsiolkovsky, he provided people with the sense, with the purpose that everyone can live his life, and in order to do his small part in the bigger process, because our humanity plans to develop, plans to expand, and what you do right now personally will help to make to bring us closer to that goal, or make this way easier. So it already provides the fulfillment.
It's actually astonishing that this guy was giving those ideas like before the development of psychology about the fulfillment of a human kind of human person that is able to work towards the greatest goal. But at the same time, it's even more astonishing that this person uh, did those things 50 years before the first spaceship was even created. And I think it was before those technologies were even conceivable by the human mind. But I also wanted to ask you, what was his ideas on how to achieve this stuff?
Yeah, like very, very good question, Artem. And yes, talking about the sense of purpose, it was more my message to our listeners on how his ideas can appeal towards their, internal explorations, and how can they serve them on their way to find their answers. Of course, he was touching those topics as well, but as you correctly mentioned, he was as you correctly mentioned, we talking about his works, his visions, thoughts, we should more consider practical aspects, practical ideas. And he was the one he was the first one who offered just idea that humanity can develop and expand into space. And he is not famous for providing us with some engineering concepts of what to do or how to build certain space habitat, or how to exploit space resources in space. And why we are talking about him with such a big attention. You correctly mentioned that he started to talk about space colonization in simple terms a long time before humans first reached the space. And I will say even more, he started to think about space even before humans managed to build first aircrafts. Like, it was before that. Like, people were so dumb, sorry for such rude terminology, but back then people didn't even believe that we can fly in air with help of certain machines like aircrafts, airplanes. People were not ready to accept even those idea of using air as air environment for transportation and traveling. But even back then, in those days, he was already thinking about colonizing space, that this is the thing which makes him so special and so extraordinary for not only for his time, but generally for humanity in general, because those people, they move the frontiers of human thought. Like, if you don't think that you can use your like, if we look at history from a very static and usual standpoint, like in the past, people didn't think that they can use fire for cooking food. And there was
that's deep history.
Like that analogy is very appropriate. Like, there was the first one smart guy who decided that, look, we should try. Let's take this piece of meat, put it above the fire, and let's take a look at what will happen. So it smells better, it tastes better, so maybe we should use fire regularly for cooking purposes. So it was the step.
The first step in the right direction.
Yes, yeah. It was this type of step, let's say. And we as humans, unfortunately, of course, maybe it's not pleasure to state, but we are making those steps very rarely, and we are doing it with a very big efforts, because resistance towards something new in human society is just incredibly strong. Unfortunately, it's true. Even though in modern time we already used to think that development of technologies is so fast and unstoppable that we are growing and growing in scientific and technological terms like super quickly, even though it's sort of case right now, generally for human society it's not the case. So that's why Tsiolkovsky, as the one who offered the idea of using space for development, expanding human civilization, is super special.
Yeah, and at the same time, even if we compare this time limit in which the society is more open to changes, and we can compare it with the whole human history, it's going to be something like 3-4 decades of new stuff, new things, with millennia of conservatism and, let's say, backwaterness
exactly.
of all ideas.
Exactly, yeah. It's totally true that nowadays the scientific and engineering development is growing exponentially. So it's not linear growth, it's exponential growth. And his ideas of Tsiolkovsky and ideas of many others who offered, high-tech, like for back then it was high-tech solutions in many different domains of human life, they were implemented quite quickly throughout 20th century. And surely if we talk about electricity, aircrafts, spacecrafts, it was not the period of hundreds of centuries like it was with the concept of flat Earth or concept of heliocentric solar system. Yeah, like it was when we remember Copernicus or Galilei and the resistance their ideas were facing back then. It was for them. It was much harder to promote their ideas than it was for Tsiolkovsky and his ideas of space colonization, because when the space era began, let's remind our listeners.
So basically it began if we take artificial satellites, the 50s, if we take humans in space, the 60s
Sure.
of 20th century.
Sure. So it's not more than 50 years or even less for the ideas of Tsiolkovsky and their first attempts of practical implementation. And talking about more practical stuff, there were two the most important figures who kickstarted the space race, space exploration. It was Ukrainian engineer.
I think it was an engineer.
Engineer Sergei Korolev and German engineer who later worked in the United States, Werner von Braun. And both of them were inspired in their young ages by works of Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. And very interesting fact, there was memory of one soldier, I'm not sure of which army, Soviet or American, who stepped on the military base Peenemünde, I think it was the name of Third Reich, where Werner von Braun, German engineer we are talking about, was developing his first rockets.
Oh,
yes, on that military base there were a lot of papers of von Braun, and very special place among his, in his library was dedicated to the book, one of books of Tsiolkovsky, and that book was full of different notes from Werner von Braun, because for him it was like a Bible book of his life, which inspired him for his work and his future achievements. Like, let's remind our listeners just to clarify the significance of this person. Like, do you remember the Apollo program?
oh yeah, the first spaceships that were sent from United States to the moon.
Yes, and like the one who developed the program, the CEO, I think we can say it in modern terminology of the project, Apollo, was the Werner von Braun, and
maybe the chief engineer would be even more precise in that case. I think he was maybe deputy director at NASA.
Yeah, like
the deputy director, something like that.
I don't think that it's very important. That the most important thing that Werner von Braun played the key role in development of American space program, and first practical steps in space, which carry huge significance. They were inspired by Tsiolkovsky. Well, it doesn't matter whether we talk about Werner von Braun or Sergei Korolev. Both of them, they, with no doubts, made the biggest, impact on development of humans' race space technologies, and his ideas, influenced a lot our modern life, and we should not forget about him and his teachings, and that's why basically we decided to remind our listeners about him today, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky couldn't have been alone, an only person in the world who was predicting the future and thinking about this stuff. Maybe there were anyone else that you can remember right now, like from the top of your head?
Yeah, it's like, honestly, I have very few characters from human history I want to mention today due to their significance. Besides Tsiolkovsky, Korolev, and Werner von Braun, I would like to mention Gerard O'Neill. This is the one who offered. He was not real, he was a real engineer, but he did not make his name in the same way as Korolev or Werner von Braun did. He, in my opinion, in my eyes, we should more relate him to the category where Tsiolkovsky stands as the theoretical thinker, because he was the one who created the concept we discussed about many times in our series, O'Neill cylinder, the type of habitat, the only type of habitat, according to the Sunday Show research and development team, the only type of habitat viable for mankind as a development option. Yes, it is. Let's remind our listeners what type of structure it is.
Oh, so basically, it's just for reminders. It's a cylinder in space, which is 8 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide, maybe 5. Yeah, which rotates around its own axis, thus creating artificial gravity. And in that habitat, in, let's say, the size of U.S. county, people can live self-sustainably. Well, hopefully.
Yes, this was the idea of Gerard O'Neill. And the main challenge and the main task is to create a sustainable artificial ecosystem in totally independent from any other external, sources of resources like water, air, or minerals. If we simplify it a lot, and this is the step where we are still what we are still moving towards. And we're so far away from creating such a structure that I'm not really able to predict when we will be at least probably capable of creating the one, but we already in terms of thinking about it, we're touching this concept many times, like it was pictured in Interstellar movie as space base or spaceship for humans.
I think it was a space habitat in the ending of the movie.
Definitely.
But at the same time, there was a lot of representations in mass media of different kinds of structures, like O'Neill cylinders, like swarms of those cylinders, that sort of things. But at the same time, about the time estimate that you mentioned, that we can't put a time frame on it, if we recall something like 5 years ago, could someone imagine that artificial intelligence would be able to write poems, write music, and create pictures?
Yeah,
you can't really put a time frame on anything right now.
Yes. Our world is very unpredictable, and fortunately, it's unpredictable in all direction. Yes, as for negative events and for positive events as well. So, like, we should not be very desperate about abilities of mankind to build some engineering structures like this. But besides that, I wanted to mention that besides Interstellar movie, it was mentioned by one very significant American sci-fi writer. I remember when I was 11, I've got a book. I found it on a bookshelf in my home, which called Rendezvous with Rama, and I think you like the naming.
Yeah, I think I heard about it. So
yeah, like it is one of the most famous representations of O'Neill cylinder concept. It was the book by another key figure I want to mention, Arthur Clarke, American science fiction writer, and in his representation, it was the spaceship of aliens who decided to visit our solar system in such space habitat, which was not only in general approach, let's say. O'Neill cylinder is the habitat which rotates around the sun or around any other star. But in the book of Clarke, it was the spacecraft capable of moving between different stars, and it visited us from very remote parts of space, and human expedition was exploring whether there are some aliens inside of it or not. And I was very impressed by this book, and I think it was the experience which inspired me for a very long time. And besides Mr. O'Neill, besides Mr. Clarke, I would also mention Isaac Asimov. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. He was the one who wrote the series of novel called Foundation. I think there is a series released not very long time ago dedicated to his work now.
Really? I must have missed it, because I know Asimov only for robotics mostly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, anyways, those writers, those thinkers, they created a lot of, concepts which provide us with some ideas where to develop, where to move, and what we can set as an objective, as a long-term goal for humanity. And why, like maybe someone may ask, what was the purpose of mentioning all those concepts, those surnames of philosophers? What it gives to an average human being looking for answers to his existential questions, who reads psychological literature, maybe attending psychiatrist, not a therapist, I wanted to
like
say.
Like a therapist, yeah.
Yes, it was not the right choice of words. But still, how it helps. My answer will be, as usual, not very short, but I believe profound and meaningful. The idea behind it is very simple and compelling, in my opinion. Those projects, those concepts, they solve very important and fundamental problem humanity has right now, is the problem of immortality. We are not able as a humanity to face immensity of time. We cannot exist eternally. Eternity is something what exists only on pages of philosophical books. But this is the thing which creates among us very big disparity. We lose the feeling of purpose. We lose feeling of we feel that there is no point in doing something in a big term. I mean, now I'm not talking about individuals. Now I'm talking more about society, more about where societies are moving, like everywhere, not only in certain country, but in every developed country.
On planet Earth,
on planet
so
Earth in general, yes. We don't have the answer. What is the point in development? What is the point in, accumulating some technologies, wealth, whatever, if we are doomed anyways? Let those people
to make it bright before we're doomed.
Like actually for many it might be an answer, but in fact it's not an answer. The answer is provided by Tsiolkovsky, O'Neill, and Clark. Those are the people who can give humans sense of purpose, because they offer the ideas which will solve problem of immortality and which will provide us ability to face eternity. Why? Because those concepts of space, using space as the place where we live, which was developed by Tsiolkovsky, and the idea of O'Neill cylinder provided by Mr. O'Neill. Those are two concepts which solve the problem of immortality and the problem of living eternally in our universe. And talking about...
But not 100% solving. Because at the same time, we know that the universe is finite. Basically, it will also come to an end. There is nothing eternal in the world as we know it. Even the universe will merge with another universe, and maybe at the center of the universes of the space, which we don't know yet.
Yes.
But still, we discovered that universes move. as do planets, as do stars. So at one point in time, even the space itself should be finished. Of course, it's not as short term as, for example, the sun lifetime,
Exactly.
which is, I think, about 5, 6 more billion years, if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, it will also be finite.
Yes. But if I were you, I would most probably refer to more short-term periods, like few, maybe, I'm not ready to say decades, but centuries, until mankind turns Earth into, unfertile and
waste.
Unhospitable desert full of waste because of our, rate of exploiting primarily water, soil, and biological resources like fish, for example, or other
animals,
or other like creatures. Yes, When we are talking about eternity, we should already compare it not with periods of great collapse of universe, but we should compare it with realistic estimates on how long humanity can exist on Earth. And this is not very,
that's not very long. In space
all forecasts are not very, optimistic, and they vary from couple of hundreds to couple of thousands of years because we are not sustainable. And this is the main reason why those forecasts are not optimistic. But when we're talking about eternity in space and those sustainable space habitats, we receive the time frame. We're talking about time frame incomparable with the one we may realistically have on Earth. So that's
even unrealistically,
yes, because talking millions of years of sustainability is not thousands of years of sustainability. And very interesting point actually you touched, talking about the collapse of space. I really wanted to comment on that one because I have very, I think, bright answer. Like when the space collapse, time collapse as well. So it will not exist. So the eternity will be over. So like theoretically,
eternity is finite.
Theoretically is infinite, but practically, if we consider that theory about collapse of the space, time is finite as well. So infinity. Eternal existence of space will be limited only by existence of universe itself. It's pretty long period of time, and I think for humans, when humans know that their existence is infinite, or their existence is limited only by existence of universe itself, they will feel fulfilled enough, in my opinion. I'm not sure if people will not find other reasons to be upset or depressed or whatever, even in those conditions. But from intellectual standpoint, I do believe that when people, I want to say not if, but when people achieve that level of development, when we build a big amount of self-sustainable space habitats, we will provide the big answer, profound answer on why we are here and whether we did what we were supposed to do in our lives and whether we were successful in this. And unfortunately, right now, humanity does not have any, plans, any objectives, any goals related to, you know, to that dimension of human development. And in my
Yeah, to take
opinion,
off from Earth at all.
yes, like there are some, chaotic ideas like the one provided by Musk, who says that he will build a city on Mars. God knows what is the purpose of that. And but in general, it does not affect humanity overall, and people do not feel, engaged, involved into this process. They don't feel that if they, wake up in the morning and do certain work, they will serve this greater goal. Because this goal is not set by, some higher authorities on our planet. And in my opinion, of course, there are many other, goals for average human being, like his family, his personal happiness. But besides that, I do believe that humans need to have a higher purpose, higher sense of purpose. And this is the one which would be very suitable for on this role, because all civilizations which were successful, which were great, like whatever it is, like in my opinion, the best example is Chinese civilization. Of course, maybe it's controversial statement, but I will explain right now why I'm talking about them. This is the one civilization. Maybe I'm not aware about others, but as far as I know, this is the one civilization which incorporated in its planning.
Yeah, in core values.
In its core values, yes, it incorporated in its core values long-term planning. China, what is different, what is special about China is that they are planning not for, average human lifespan. They plan for centuries and millennia. And this is the approach humanity really lacks. And I really believe that this is the thing we should acquire, and the form, how it will be, created, who will be the one who sets this goal for humanity, it's a big question. I don't have certain answer on this one, but I do believe that we should create objective, we should create a vision towards these sort of things, because without them, humans will sooner or later face, this wall which they hit, and they don't understand where to move next. And it, starts to discourage people. They feel lack of purpose, and it always leads to collapse of civilization. Of course, I think many people may disagree with me, and I will be very happy to hear those opinions. Yeah, we will provide this opportunity today, like
in the questions form of the podcast, but at the same time, I'm ready to disagree with you.
Of course, spot on. Of course, I will be glad to hear your.
I don't think
opinion.
It's about planning; it's about the bias of humankind in general. For example, you were looking at mostly Chinese civilization, which were successful, but at the same time, what do we measure as success? The possibility of them to live on for centuries, or the achievements that they produce eventually? That's very important question, number one. And the next question is that, for example, there is Roman civilization, which was also, in my opinion, extra successful in terms of the planet Earth, when they conquered everything and basically changed the life in ancient world. They were the first country ever to produce welfare system, for example. That's not something that was produced until 20th century in
Sure.
modern world. So basically, they were a very successful civilization, and they collapsed due to a lot of factors. And planning might have been one of them, and setting strategic long-term goals for hundreds of years might have been one of them. But there is also another dimension of problems, like climatic problems, the movement of people, of the workforce, of labor force, so to speak, the ideas that spawn in this civilization that can help or not help in certain points of civilization. For example, in China, if we take China as an example as well, they had a variety of ideas. Like 2,500 years ago, it was Confucianism. I think it was also a bit later Buddhism. Then it basically was nothing in terms of ideas when they were
Sure.
conquered by Mongols. And a lot of times their civilization was on the brink of collapse and no amount of planning helped them. So, what do you think about that?
Regarding your first question, what do we measure as as a success? Yeah, I think it's definitely not about some great engineering achievements and some great buildings and or monuments they left behind, because they have no meanings if they don't serve the society, if they just exist on their own, like I don't know, ruins of certain fortress which does not have any people living behind its walls. Its existence of this fortress is pointless. So I think the measure of success is only sustainability of society itself on certain territory, and the stability of its wealth, and like whether the prosperity remains prosperous or not. Like there are, in simple terms, whether the people in more or less same quantity remain on certain territory, they preserve their identity, language, beliefs, values, whatever, and whether those people possess sufficient amount of material resources, whether this society prospers or not. If society achieves the results which gives them a chance to live on certain territory with practically same amount of people, with the more or less same culture and values, and those people are more or less on the same level of well-being, I think it's a success. It's definitely the one possible measure of success, because this is the realistic one.
So the
And
Romans, the Chinese fit in successful civilizations, for example.
I think only Chinese fit, because Chinese still occupy the same or they are still occupying approximately the same territory of in Eastern Asia. Meanwhile, Romans, they lost everything, and their society, Latin culture, it was fragmented in two pieces. Though, it's very simple. Right now, we don't have Latin language. We have Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian language. So Chinese, of course, Chinese language, it has evolved throughout centuries, but Chinese people, Chinese statehood, and Chinese civilization in terms of culture remains sustainable on the same territory. Like it was there a couple of thousands years ago. It's there right now, and most probably they will remain there in future. In the meantime, Romans, for example, they lost everything, and in the meanwhile, there were periods of crisis in China and periods of prosperity. There was only period of certain, prosperity in Roman civilization. Then it developed, and then it collapsed. It has collapsed, and of course, Western civilization has its roots in Roman civilization, but it's different.
Even
Anyways,
the legal system, the modern legal system of the majority of countries.
We inherited a lot. Alphabet, legal system, culture, a lot of
Roads.
things. Sure. But anyone would agree that we don't live there. There is no Roman or Latin state in the Mediterranean region anymore.
There is one, papacy.
Which one?
Papacy.
Of course, yes, it's a very significant one, and I'm not ready to say that the development of Western civilization is bad, because Chinese civilization,
pros and cons.
Of course, but in terms of general, we measure success in different dimensions, but in dimensions of culture, for example, Western civilization was much more successful than Chinese, because even though Roman Empire has collapsed and there was a period, according to official history, of Dark Ages or Middle Ages, how they this period of time called as well. Even though West went through all those hard times, eventually it started expanding, and now Western civilization basically occupies not only whole Europe, but also North America, South America. Russia it's also part of Western civilization, conquered Siberia, Oceania as well, and even African states, even though African continent didn't have the same faith, same destiny, as the American continent. The people living there, especially to the south from Sahara, they became Christian, and they adopted European languages. So maybe Chinese civilization was more sustainable on its territory, and it remains on the same place, more or less. And Western civilization was less sustainable in that dimension. But at the same time, eventually Western civilization expanded, and throughout this metamorphosis which took place, of course, France is Latin state. France is part of Western world, but it's definitely different from Rome. But Chinese state, which existed in Roman time, and modern Chinese state, they are much more similar, in my opinion, than contemporary France and ancient Rome.
Or Italy and ancient Rome.
Or like any part of Western world and ancient world. We can not be very sure about what way of development is the most appropriate, the way of sustainability, as I stressed initially as the measure of success, or the way of constant
growth,
fluctuations of crises and prosperity periods, and metamorphoses which change the society itself, which cause the constant evolution of society. It's very controversial topic, but in terms of very physical things, people now, even if people change their language or culture, there must be sustainable amount of people, and they must be healthy, and they must have enough material resources. The approach offered by Tsiolkovsky and materialized by O'Neill and Clarke and our fantastic science fiction writers, it provides the answers on how we achieve those things. Yes, and those are fundamental. Evolution of society in terms of culture is, I think, the secondary question.
I think I could agree with that, especially with all the fantastic arguments that you provided. And yeah, there are also a lot of opinions on that topic. So I think we can call that as is and just leave it to move forward. But at the same time, to move forward as the species, we still need to form a, let's say, supra culture or supra, maybe supra civilization, in which the whole Earth is participating. And I think we mentioned it earlier in other episodes that it would be fantastic if something like a UN would work in such a way that we can consider all nations and everyone as a singular entity, in which the civilization in which civilization basically works as one to move forward and to, of course, uphold some level of standards of living as well as some development level.
Sure. We should definitely start with creation of establishment of similar standards of living all over the world, and only then move towards, expansionism towards space. I think that this is the right order of things.
At least in terms of the space exploration, because if we take a look at the history of colonization, the countries were still colonized by the states in which inequality was very massive. But in space terms, it may be dangerous even to move on with such system, in my opinion, at least.
Sure, I totally agree with you, because humanity in its modern form, where the competition attains sometimes very aggressive and destructive forms, should not go for, acquiring some celestial bodies, developing space stations, starting, exploiting resources, because it will the competition for those resources will definitely lead to conflicts, and this is definitely not what we need right now and in future. Definitely, it will not be a sustainable way of development. We will be risking to pose long-term survivability of humanity even under a bigger risk than it has right now remaining here on Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with such things as the great filter of technology, which I think also would be a great topic for some other episode, because it's so wholesome that we need to spend, I think, maybe 2 hours on discussing it. And at the same time, I think we can safely move to personal philosophies and personal ideologies that can help people with ideas that can help people to stay sustainable, and that can help us understand why would people want to stay, let's say, immortal as a species, as a humankind. Because if we take a look right now, what is the purpose of any single person to achieve this human immortality, at least right now?
Well, it's a pretty hard question, because I don't think that this question is on the table right now, in fact, because as we returning to the point where we started our today's discussion from, is that in contemporary human being wants to achieve the material success, financial success, get the lifestyle it wants, and to have a good life, good quality of life, because life is finite. It's not it is not eternal, and like people want to get everything as fast as possible and leave our fantastic world and don't care what will happen with this world after their death. So I think this is what we should do. We should pose this question. We should create this discussion on why would people even want immortality in first place, what it would offer them. And honestly, there are a lot of different teachings, different ideas developed by many different philosophers and thinkers in the past. And this is the topic I wanted to ask you about, because I know you were very interested in that subject previously. And talking about the motivation to live eternally, motivation to immortality, and many other things, like we were talking about, collecting material resources and having, cool lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is the topic which was very important for Nietzsche and his teachings. And I wanted to hear your opinion on two, very broad topics. The first, the vision of immortality, why a human being would opt in for it. And what would it bring him? What would be the benefits of it? And another question is more, I think, practical and philosophical at the same time. In our modern world, where we are surrounded with all those, attributes of comfort, and all these technologies which are simplifying our life, what is the solution for the human which hits the wall in sense of achievement all possible comfort and all possible desires of material world? What Nietzsche was thinking about solutions to that question. Like, what would you say regarding those two things?
So I'll start with the second one about the hitting the wall in the comfort zone. Let's call it that way. When people can't really achieve more, let's say, material stuff. But I think Nietzsche had a very good point on that in terms of his theory for an overperson, or as Germans said it, an Übermenschen. But at the same time, I want to clearly make it as clear as possible, clearly define this overperson and Übermensch, because there is a very negative connotation to that word because of the 20th century event.
It's the case, actually.
Yeah, it's the case of a situation in which the philosophers' words were twisted and they were basically lied about. It wasn't about one single nation. It wasn't about someone being better than the others. It was first and foremost about the humanity as a single unit, so to speak. Because in Nietzsche's writing, an overperson, an Übermensch, should be the next step in evolution. Maybe not physical evolution, but evolution of the mind and of the thought. So an overperson should focus on stuff that's entirely above irregular stuff that normal person is thinking. Basically, it would be not thinking about material, but thinking about eternity and humankind in general. So for that, we would need to focus on a couple of things predominantly. The first thing would be on education, so that people would understand their place in the world, so that they would understand that they are not living their life only for material pleasures, but that they're living for something greater, for greater good of all humanity. And I think that concept can really help humankind explore the space and start going beyond the Earth's, let's say, borders in some sense, and going boundaries even, and going out to living in space. Uh, I I even got a quote for an Übermensch by Nietzsche, and let me quote it.
Wow, it would be
Yeah,
interesting to hear.
our way is upward from the species across to the superspecies, but the degenerate mind which says all for me is a horror to us. Basically, he is looking towards only one thing, towards a common goal, towards unification of people for a greater good. And I believe that is something that can help. And can you please remind me the first question? I kind of slip my
The
mind.
first question was opinion. Like, how, in your opinion, the ideas of immortality of individual and the ideas of Nietzsche on superhuman. Like, I really reflect when I hear this, I really start thinking about Superman from DC or Marvel. Where was he? Like, how those two concepts of human immortality, of separate human being, and ideas of superhuman, how do they intersect in your opinion?
I think they have a very clear intersection because I believe that superhuman and or an Übermensch or an overman, that depends on your translation, of course, and the
Sure.
immortality is directly connected. Like, um, if we are choosing the common goal for the planet Earth's inhabitants in let's say, in representation of humankind, what could be the more attainable goal for humans? Because what are humans looking for in life in general? They're looking for a purpose, b, continuation. So whenever you achieve something, you want to stay at that level. Otherwise, you will lose the sense of achievement in some sort. And for humankind, whenever we transition from species to super species, from man to Superman.
Superman, yeah, like it really reminds me about Superman. Like, I cannot do anything about it.
Yeah, now that's stuck in my head too. Thank you.
Yeah, you're always welcome.
So from people to super people, it will go only in one way, on achieving immortality and eternity, on taking pride that your labor, that your effort has been added to something so monumental that it will be that it will be kept in space for all eternity. And knowing the humankind, most likely it will spread across the universe. It will spread and it will be present all across the, maybe our universe, maybe all other neighboring universes. That
Oh,
depends
like,
on.
you are master of setting ambitious goals, I see.
Yeah. What choice do we have in that case? So I think that's how they basically intersect. But at the same time, Nietzsche also mentioned one very good concept that I think adds something to this idea. It's the concept of death of God. So if we take a look at modern trends as well, we will notice that a lot more people became atheists in the last, I don't know, 50 years, 100 years. Whenever you take a look from, a lot more people became atheists. So with removing some ideas such as religion from the picture, we still need a higher entity above us, because otherwise the human mind can't comprehend something so complex. If we even take a step back and retrace our steps with religion back to the origins of religions, a million of years ago, 800,000 years ago, why did the religion appear? Mostly to help people, cavemen, understand the world. They couldn't apprehend um, why did it rain? Why did the lightning strike me? That's because of the higher purposes. That's because of the higher force. And right now, we are moving towards the next crisis, in my opinion, when we don't know the explanation to how the universe works. Why does it work? And for that, we will need to go to another level as people, as species. We will need to replace our beliefs with knowledge. And that knowledge can only be attained if we all work together towards the same goal. And as a super species, we will be able to work together on deciphering the mysteries of the universe in order to understand it, to become master of it. That's also another concept of Nietzsche that I really love. It's about the will to power. So, in Nietzsche's opinion, he wrote that people, whenever they have an opportunity, they will always struggle for power. They will always look for the ruling position. Otherwise, the person will not be content. Basically, we can even retrace it also back to Machiavelli, who wrote his book called The Prince, in which he basically stated the same, that the only purpose of human life is to get more power. And with that transition, with that going to outer space, we will get this power, we will obtain it, and we will become the masters of it will be a very pretentious word, but the masters of universe. I think that will be the purpose and the aim for people if they want to achieve something. And I think if we combine all those bits and pieces of Nietzsche's philosophy together, we will see that this transition to superhumans really helps us in understanding why would people even want eternity and immortality in the first place. Because it's power, because it's our purpose, and because we need to substitute something greater than some greater concept. So I think that would be it. And what are your thoughts on Nietzsche's philosophy in that case, and at least my interpretation of them?
Sure, yeah, like you have very great interpretation of Nietzsche philosophy, and I have basically I have two comments on your vision of Nietzsche philosophy from space exploration perspective. The very first comment I have is related to the ideas of power seeking you were talking right now.
Yeah.
That people they look for power. It's truth and it's natural. And what is the problem of our society in general is that in most cases, the natural desires of a human being, they face limitations. And when it happens, those desires, they spoil a human being and they turn him into a monster. It can be from every perspective we look at it, we see the same. The dictator in like random African state, which was very unsatisfied with his life and he obtained unlimited amount of power, starts to spoiling life of his people. He started torturing and killing a lot of random citizens who for some reasons are not a good fit for his regime, or we can say like it's very, I think, widespread plot of modern, movies, horror stories, like the one like person who did not have enough, sexual opportunities in his young life. In future, he becomes
Sadistic, basically.
sadistic person who is looking for opportunities to make crime, to destroy someone's life, to
It's also a power play. It's also about the power, let's say, the desire of power. Whenever the person, well, from the last example, whenever there is some limitation, person will go at it, and the person will try to get the power back by any means necessary. So
exactly.
if the person didn't have social power in the beginning, this person will try to share it and grab it from other senses, like from sadistic maneuvers or something like that. It's also explained very good by one writer, and I think it was 1 second, let me just recall the name of the writer first.
Sure.
I think it was Oscar Wilde who said that everything in life is about sex, except for the sex, it's about power.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, even that quote also has some meaning to it. And it was said before Nietzsche, I think, long before Nietzsche. As about African dictators, it's also a power play. For example, when African dictators have their internal civil wars, that's only for power. And the powerless people are the ones who want to take the power back. In modern world, we found a solution for that. A democracy in which people get some share of power. For maybe in Western democracies, as a great fit, when people have voting power, they feel like they are involved and they feel their own strength, and that's enough for them in most cases. So of course, but that's still a representative democracy, and it's a voting democracy. I think in the future, if we go to that concepts, we'll have to develop new concepts of democracy in which people will have even more power, so that they can affect the life of their nation, of their maybe even species, more effectively and efficiently.
Regarding the topic of power and human desires, I was actually moving towards a little bit different direction. I will clarify what I mean, and what I wanted to come eventually. When people face limitations, yes, every system we have is not perfect. There is no perfect system, unfortunately, and people always face limitations in every desire they can possibly have. And we must find a solution for this. And I think, space exploration, space expansion is the perfect solution due to only one thing, due to only one reason. We have unlimited amount of space in space, and we can create unlimited amount of habitats in space in form of only cylinders, and it will provide people with opportunity to create any type of society, any type of system they want. There are a lot of extremely interesting political initiatives, groups, teachings, ideas, religious groups, whatever. And people who create them, of course, they seek for power. Sometimes it is a brutal, in ugly form, like in those countries suffering from dictators. or sometimes it's in more sophisticated and attractive form, like in certain, unusual political party of, I don't know, pet lovers, or political party of anarcho-capitalists, whoever. There are wide range of ideas, and in my opinion, there is the only solution to give what they want, without affecting lives of others, is creation of separate habitats for each teaching, each ideology, each group of enthusiasts in space, where they can build their own utopia. And when I talk about this, I really see one man sparkling in my mind. His surname is Tinkov. He is very famous in banking business. Once I saw one seminar or workshop from him, and he was talking about win-win strategy in business. He was referring to business competitors which are struggling for getting the bigger market share on certain market. And what was their problem? They were competing for the same customers, and their competition was becoming more and more fierce, more and more brutal, violent, and this is very wrong and dangerous direction. And what Tinkov said, he said, the problem is that you are not using the win-win strategy. You are losing win-lose strategy. If someone wins, another definitely must lose. And this is your problem. Instead of competing for the same market, you should consider idea of expanding your market, getting more customers, and this will provide you with new limits. It will expand the limits of growth for your business, and it will be win-win solution, not win-win-lose solution. And this is the same for idea of power in terms of life of human society, which was represented by Nietzsche. When we expand into space, when we learn how to create unlimited amount of space habitats, we can provide enough room for experiments, for social systems, for ideas, project to everyone, and it will provide fulfillment for anyone who want to build its own who want to make the world live according to his own rules. It's very simple. He creates the project and he recruits volunteers who wants to live in such system.
And there is already hierarchy in what you mentioned. Someone creates and other people join. So this person, he or she will be viewed as a leader in some sorts. So there is again a power struggle. Someone is the lead, someone is the follower.
But I don't see the struggle. I see
there will be a struggle.
Opportunity to get it. Like, it is not a struggle. He does not struggle for power in certain place. He creates a place and becomes a leader there. And his goal is to get as much followers as possible. And this is in my opinion, this very smart way to provide humans with fulfillment of those desires. And I think we should really consider this option as philosophical, as a solution for philosophical problem. Nietzsche.
Yeah, I think I have to disagree with you on that one, to be honest, because whenever there is a leader in society and there are followers, for example, if it's a space habitat, 50, 60, 80 years will pass and the person will die. So there will be a need of successor. And that's when the power struggle will kick in. Some people will have to be, if it's not a full direct democracy, maybe it's anarcho-capitalism, maybe it's, I don't know, something that has to do with any sort of leadership, there will
Sure.
be consequences to power struggles, and it may lead to a wide variety of outcomes, from the collapse of the civilization, like if we take a look at the Romans, one of the key problems in their civilization was the power struggle between the
Sure.
factions. And if it happens in space, if it happens with somewhere without the infinite resources, well, uh, let's call them subjectively infinite.
Okay.
If it happens on a piece of land with very limited resources and there is a power struggle, it will lead to a wide variety of conflicts. So I think, as a part of Nietzsche's ideas, there should be a full liberal democracy, direct liberal democracy, in which all people have equal rights and they all share the same fraction of the power. I think in our history we had such examples. Of course, they were not 100% accurate to this statement, but they were very similar if we take some exclusions, so to speak.
Okay.
Maybe Athenian democracy. All voters had equal rights and they had equal opinion weight. Of course, the voters were only male, only citizens, not slaves, only people with wealth. But if we just close our eyes on that part, that was a direct democracy when people decided on each matter that they had in their community, in their polis. Uh, Whenever any question arose in Athens, people were summoned and all voters had to vote on how to proceed. If it's war or peace, if it's building a new ship or building a new stadium for running marathons, stuff like that, they had a direct power over that. I think with development of technology, we are moving closer to this direct democracy, real direct democracy. Um, Maybe the people will have some gadget to vote on any question that they get, in terms of living in space habitats, for example, or on Earth. So I think the only feasible way is direct democracy.
I see. Like, it's very good point actually, but it's still, depends or connects with the part with limitation of resources, or the situation where we have unlimited amount of resources. In fact, even if we talk about our solar system, we have unlimited amount of resources for building space habitats, because, like, again, what we need three things. We need rock, we need nitrogen, and we need water. Like, we have abundance of those three resources, and basically we can build as soon as we achieve enough strong enough technological edge in that technology, we can create those habitats relatively quickly. I believe that we will be able to do this relatively quickly. And as soon as certain conflict appears in a society, part of society will be able or will be forced to move to another habitat, or just to create another one and move there to live in a new habitat according to their rules. And what actually, maybe I have very controversial belief, but I do believe that there will be a lot of groups of people who sincerely want to live not in democratic society. I do believe that there will be group of people, like multiple groups of people who want to live in monarchist country or in theocracy. I do believe that there will be thousands and thousands of such habitats, of such societies, where people sincerely and voluntarily opt in for living in those types of systems. So, anyways, we are always moving to the question of limitations of resources. If we opt in for this type of lifestyle, type of development of human civilization, we will not have limitations of resources. Maybe like when we really process every piece of rock existing in our solar system, but it's not possible, in my opinion, to do in
Yeah.
even millions of years. So there will be always some room to expand. What is the problem of Earth right now? It has limited amount of space, very limited, and we must always adopt. We must always accept certain type of a certain system of rules, whether we like it or not. We should always remain in minority and listen to the majority, or listen to the system which doesn't care about what people think in the first place. So the solution which will be provided to human species, like in general, is primarily, this removal of limitation of resources. We will always have unlimited options to move somewhere, and to get more room for our, for building the system we want. This is the main advantage. And actually, if you don't have any comments on what I said, I would like to move to my, I think, last question for today.
Yeah, sure.
We really wanted to discuss, I think, existential point of view, like point of view of existential philosophy on human development in dimension of space. In your opinion, how the human development, the human expansion into space may answer existential question every human being facing?
That's actually a very good question, because I think existential philosophy has done great wonders in terms of human history, and I think it can also really help us understand the cosmic expansion and all the plans that, well, maybe not plans, but at least all the aspirations that we discussed today. And I think one of the most important ones in that case, in, let's say, pursuit of immortality, is the existential angst, so-called existential angst. Basically, it's an existential fear or dread or anxiety that happens because the person has so much freedom and so much responsibilities to take on. I think one of the best examples was provided, to be honest, I don't really remember by who. Maybe it was Sartre or maybe it was Camus, but it said something along the lines of the feeling when the person is standing on the edge of a cliff or on the edge of a tall building, when the person can choose to jump and finish it all, and this feeling of freedom, this feeling that the person can be held responsible for such actions as ending it all, it's something so important that the existential dread, existential anxiety kicks in, because you have a responsibility to keep yourself up and running, because you have a responsibility to make horrible and very hard decisions in general. So I think this concept in general is very helpful to understand why the people might want to pursue the immortality. Basically, if we don't do that, we will be feeling this existential dread all the time, because we had the chance to uh, preserve the life of our species for indefinitely long periods of time. And if we do not choose to continue, if we do not make effort towards this goal, it can give the sense of anxiety that we had so much responsibility and we failed to do it. But at the same time, it's very important to discuss what is existentialism. And existentialism, in its core, is a philosophical teaching that is focused on existence of a human being in maybe an absurd situation with the free will, maybe in existential crisis situation, stuff like that. And it was developed mostly by Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. And I think one of the main, let's say, ideas behind existentialism is that a human being is always in absolute control of one's own life, and that may provide all variety of emotions, and that's why people feel the most alive at the very risky situations, like life-threatening situations. So in my opinion and in my belief, this philosophy and this philosophical school can help us understand why people would even want to go out to space in the first place. But as I already mentioned, it's about choosing the reason for your existence, and it's about working toward the goal that you are setting for yourself, because since it's an absolute free will, you're absolutely free to choose whatever you want to do.
Sure, I think it's a great point. But besides that, I would like to hear your ideas on how human desires to attaining, personal immortality, getting, existentialism about existence first of all, and people may consider what is. Why the existence was worth existing? Was it life worth? Was the life worth living it? And I really feel the contradiction between our general ideas that we want to inspire people by, getting some higher purpose, sense of higher purpose. And those existential ideas, even if, in your opinion, can those ideas about higher purpose, about participation of individual human in global projects of creation of space habitats expanded into space, can this idea still be appealing enough to people from existential point of view, or existentialism will distract people from moving towards those higher goals, because they obviously it will take a super long time to build all this stuff, and the most likely only next generations, grandparents of your grandparents, grandchildren of your grandchildren, will enjoy all the benefits of what humanity has created. And it's very likely that you as a human being will not be able not even to visit, but to see the results of those efforts. So from existential point of view, will the people still follow those ideas, or existentialism might distract them from it, in your opinion?
That's a great question, because I think that it will most definitely help to grow those ideas and to make them more popular, because if we are left behind without any real purpose, but the purpose that we create for ourselves, what can be a higher purpose than turning ourselves into something more than just bodies that consume all the time some materialistic parts of the world and not join something greater instead. Even if you do not see the fruits of your labor yet, I think the higher purpose will basically explain the goal of existence. And this higher goal will provide enough motivation for people to feel satisfied at the same time with what they're doing. And of course, we are realists. We will not consider the situation in which people work in a slave labor system for achieving something greater, of course.
It will not be productive, obviously.
Yeah, I'd say I might I might say that it will be counterproductive in some ways.
Surely.
But at the same time, I firmly believe that with the sense of a higher purpose, higher goal, this philosophical concept really brings out the best in people and will help people to cooperate and work on the higher good.
Sure. I think it's a very good point, and I think what we should understand from it is that primarily the existential ideas, it's basically this is what the place where we start from. That existential ideas are limited. Yes, like when people are constantly concentrating over their existence, over their existential issues, existential
crises,
this crises, or on contrast, desires, aspirations, and stuff. They will anyways, on certain point in their life, they will hit this wall, and they will understand that they need to have something bigger, something more significant. They will anyways, sooner or later, they will start looking for some sort of higher purpose. And I think we made a very good job today by offering some options, some ideas on what this higher purpose for humanity, for individual humans might be. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I completely agree, but I also would like to point out that it also helps people with taking more responsibility, because you are not only having responsibility for yourself, but you have this share of responsibility for all the humankind. And yeah, on that note, I think we did a fantastic job. It's very productive conversation, very saturated conversation. And I think those ideas and those discussions that we have will certainly help at least someone to look deeper into that and maybe look deeper into themselves, hopefully.
Of course. It was a great pleasure for me to have this profound and enriching conversation with you today, Artem. And in the end of our today's episode, I would like to do some, I think, references to our next one. Yeah, like today we finished on limitations of existential philosophy, but there are actually some answers out there on how human beings can, continue concentrating on themselves, on their personal existence, and at the same time move along this path of humanity towards expanding into space. And those two teachings, transhumanism and posthumanism, are very, appealing to, I think, people who are more existentialist than searchers for some sort of higher purpose. And I think it will be a good idea to discuss those ideas next time. What do you think?
I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm absolutely certain that we will also pick something more along the lines of those two topics, because that's how we do most of the time.
Of course. So I am super grateful to everyone who stayed with us until this point. I really hope that this conversation was very enriching and inspiring for our listeners. And see you next time.
Thank you so much for this conversation. And yeah, I was also enriched by it, to be honest. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And for our listeners, whenever you're listening to us, have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night. See you on the next one.